Like everybody's talking about onboarding the next billion users.
Yeah.
So if you're looking on it and you're saying like, okay, when I'm buying milk in the grocery store and I'm paying $1, is it really make sense that the cashier person, which is 16 years old, will see all my net worth and whoever I interacted with and what am I holding and how much do I have from it? And does it really make sense to you? Is that like a good base to onboard a billion users to? I don't think that's the case.
Hello, and welcome to Public Key. This is your host, Ian Andrews. Any idea how many DeFi protocols exist today? Think about it. It's a really large number. I'm looking at Chainalysis data right now, and we index over 300 unique bridges alone. That's not counting the DEX or swap platforms, the lending or staking protocols. Every time I meet a founder working in the space, I have to ask, why build yet another DeFi protocol? And that is the question that today's guest, who is the CEO of Tea-Fi, Matan Deutsch, gets to answer. Matan and his team are focusing on usability, security, and compliance to create a unified DeFi platform. Eventually, you'll be able to swap, borrow, and lend, trades, and stake. The token will even pay dividends or rewards to users. Matan says they're building on ZK technology to enable privacy and hopes to add a cross-chain bridge and a debit card in the future. In the conversation, we talk a lot about privacy protocols like Tornado Cash and why that hasn't been successful. And he shares why fully homomorphic encryption, or FHE, could be the future of bringing privacy to existing crypto solutions. Now, before we jump into the episode, while we're on the topic of tea, the origin of tea can be traced back to Asia, where it's seen as a symbol of the culture's rich history. But according to our Global Crypto Adoption Index, tea isn't the only thing popular in Asia, as the region leads the world in terms of global cryptocurrency adoption. And it's driven by a strong utilization of centralized services and DeFi protocols in India, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand. To find out where other countries in the world rank with respect to crypto adoption and get a preview of the report, visit our blog by clicking on the link in the show notes. And while there, you can sign up to get a full copy of the report as soon as it's published. Today, I'm joined by the CEO of Tea-Fi, Matan Deutsch. Matan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm excited because Tea-Fi is something that I had not heard of before. I think it's an exciting new protocol. I started reading about it, but I want to hear straight from you. What does Tea-Fi do? Why build another platform in DeFi? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So actually it was a great question, like why building another product, like another platform? There's so many. And I think that's actually the exact problem that we're here to solve. There are so many. And right now, like let's say you go to Ethereum and you open MetaMask because that's the default. Let's say for example you are a bit educated and FTX just collapsed and racked like $10 billion and you don't trust centralized platforms, okay? So you're a bit educated and you go to MetaMask because that's the default option. You have like 100 million users. And then you want to swap something and wait, Uniswap, SushiSwap, 1inch, OX, like what do you do there? And you need to pay the gas fee with Ethereum, and then, if you want to move to different blockchains, different wallet, a different seed phrase, and what the hell are seed phrase? And even the gas fees itself are so complicated, and that's like the average, the basic user. If you want to do, like, if you want to use lending, if you want to maybe move between different platforms, and then you need to, like, get used to again for different ones. And like bridges, static assets, everything is in different places. So like all over the place, as you say, there's so many platforms. So the idea of DeFi is basically to create one platform that will integrate into it all the core fundamental products of DeFi into one place and make it much more intuitive, much more seamless, much more user-friendly. Basically, that's it.
It's amazing because that framing is exactly how I feel. Every time I go to open my wallet and send some funds somewhere, there's this momentary feeling of terror as I'm like, well, is this the right address? Am I actually interacting with the dApp that I think I'm interacting with? Or is it the URL, the right URL that I connected my wallet to? Can I trust this platform? Who else is using the platform? Maybe without even knowing it, interacting with some people that I don't want my funds commingled with. And that goes through my head every time I open MetaMask to do anything. And so far, there's not really been a great answer. So I'd love for our discussion today to get into like how you solve some of those problems. But maybe we can rewind a little bit because from what I understand, you've been working in crypto for about 6 years.
Almost, yeah.
Almost 6 years. I'd love to hear how you found crypto. Like what drew you into the space in the first place?
Okay, so it's actually a pretty funny story. I started my crypto journey when I was 17, and I basically just searched online, searching, I think, in YouTube, how to make money online. and then basically that's how it started. I wanted to buy Minecraft, didn't have the money for it, cost like $7. I just started. Been through a lot of ups and downs, algo trading, mining, liquidity providing. I work in multiple Web3 companies. I manage my own hedge fund. I was an analyst for private investing groups in Web3. I did marketing, operation, I did business development. I was in conferences all around the world. Been a crazy 6 years, definitely.
That's such an amazing story. Do you remember what that first video was that you found when you searched for how to make money online?
That's a great question. Yeah, I do actually. It was the video of YouTuber called The Moon,
Okay.
okay, which he made a video on like this like automatic trading inside this crypto platform and like 100x leverage and getting rich overnight. And you can start with as little as $10. And I was like, oh wow, I just need 3 more. Yeah, I think that, if not mistaken, that was the first video.
Did you try and follow the advice and build
No,
like an algo trading bot?
it was too complicated.
Because at that point in 2017, we were sort of at the peak of the ICO market, and you had lots of companies listing what amounted to equity tokens in their projects. So I was curious if that was maybe the path that you initially ended up going down, but the algo trading piqued your interest first, I guess.
Actually based my RIP hedge fund. I will talk about why RIP in a second, but RIP hedge fund on algo trading. Generally speaking, actually it was pretty diversified. I wouldn't say like doing something and then heard about something else and then okay, like how can I get just as well? Just like trying as many things as possible. Nothing really like felt right. Nothing really felt like satisfying. Felt like that's what I'm gonna do like for the rest of my life. I think it felt that way until I started focusing in Web3 I think two aspects I can say that like doing them, I can imagine myself doing them till the end of my life, which is R&D, investigating all those projects, understand what went well, what didn't went well, even building this economics with like mathematicians and experts and like all the extreme use cases and like the token utilities and everything, like trying to find could this increase in value? Is this increase sustainable? I found it really, really fascinating. I'm a big fan of math. Not even investing, not even making money, just business development, just being in a meeting, closing the deal, making the connection, doing the mingling. I think the top two things I found extremely fascinating in the crypto space, for me at least.
So take us from the hedge fund into T-Fi. Is the hedge fund still around, or did you wind that down? What?
Yeah, so I was 18 years old. I started doing this algo trading, and with this algo trading, it cost a severe amount of money a month. I already did pretty well. I did a couple lectures on 3 tokens, and that was okay. Also, like started like found a job at the same time, so I was making money and like putting everything inside crypto. And basically, it came to the point that it was this one algo bot who had like 2% drawdown at most and had maybe 3 years of backtesting already, live backtesting, and never more than 2% drawdown. It wasn't amazing. It was doing like 10% a month. Okay.
Wow.
And I was, wow, this gonna run for another 3 years. I'm a billionaire. And you cannot like hold yourself from making like these calculations. And of course, that's never how it ends. But generally, this is how it started. And then because it was so expensive per month, I found a lot of users that wasn't worth for them to pay that because it cost like $5,000 a month dollars. If you put $50,000, you basically break even. It's not affordable for most users. So I started letting people put money with our like trading account, with my trading account, and start from that. And pretty quickly, taking from their profits. Okay, I'm gonna take 3% of profit and use my bot for free. And pretty quickly, we grew over $1 million. And we started testing more algo bots and have a marketing department and sales department and bring in actual traders full time. And we actually at a certain point managed over $10 million. I'm like 19 at this point.
Wow.
And then apparently it was something very cool that I just found out called regulations. Which was a bit unfortunate, but we had to shut the whole thing down.
Yeah. Did your investors at the time know that you were 19?
Yes.
You were not an anonymous like crypto trader. They knew who you
no,
were.
No,
you met them in real life.
Friends of friends, family, and their friends, and it grew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think maybe not first connection, maybe second or third connection, but everyone knew who I am. Knew like, you're her little sister, or you're his friend. Or
yeah, I mean, it's an amazing amount of trust to give somebody at 19 millions of dollars worth of money. So there must have been deep trust and interest in what you were doing. So you wind that down as you kind of run into regulatory hurdles, and you jump, I think, into maybe a more complex space when it comes to regulation to start T-Fi, right?
Yeah. So actually, it's less complex.
Okay. Tell me why.
We don't manage any funds. We don't provide any financial service. It's a set of smart contracts, which we are being rewarded. It will get adopted. But it's much easier than actually holding people money. Being an exchange, a centralized exchange, for example, like regulatory-wise, it's much more complicated. So you need to show you are decentralized or you're working towards decentralization and you check the foundation and everything. But generally speaking, it's significantly easier if with the right lawyers.
Do you think that position holds over time? Because my perspective on the crypto market is 2014, 2015, no one really knew how to regulate anything in crypto. It was sort of this, even the companies that wanted to be regulated, the regulators didn't know what to do with it. It was like, yeah, we don't understand digital assets, we don't understand crypto. And then sometime around 2017, 2018, it became pretty clear, hey, centralized exchanges, they're a type of money service business, and so we're going to require them to do transaction monitoring and collect customer information, and they need to abide by anti-money laundering regulation. And I think we're kind of in the moment with DeFi that we were with centralized exchanges 10 years ago, where people aren't quite sure what to make of them. But it seems like one logical path is that DeFi exchanges will have to ultimately collect customer information. They'll have to do regulatory reporting and transaction monitoring. And I've seen at least some platforms kind of move down that path. They'll attempt to block wallets, for example, that are known to be sanctioned, kind of the most extreme end of the compliance spectrum. What's your thought on that? Or do you see it evolving a completely different way where decentralization, everything remains permissionless?
Okay, so that's actually a very interesting topic. Like, out of my gut, I can tell like immediately that when someone asks me what's the difference, like what's the advantages, decentralized exchange compared to a centralized exchange. So the two biggest advantages is the self-custody and no KYC, okay? And even with collecting data and stuff like this, it's still no KYC. We're still like preserving those two key principles. I think collecting data is mostly relevant for privacy platforms, not for general, because the blockchain is transparent. You think this address is doing something, so you can follow this trail and get to it. But like, if it went through me, well, what can I tell you? It's everything that's transparent on the blockchain. If you ask yourself, for example, you go to the biggest privacy protocol that's being hammered by the authorities, you probably think about Tornado Cash. And we also have a privacy solution. And you have to ask yourself, why are they being so hammered? Maybe you can find a different word for it. But they're being pursued by the authorities, and they're not really other major players in the market that like got this amount of fire.
Yeah.
And we're trying to look why. So look at, for example, I don't know, like ZK Think and have so many like decentralized, maybe data ownership or privacy protocols. And I think the reason for that is when you have a legitimate use case, because if you're building a tunnel below the border between Mexico and USA, you don't have any legitimate use case. Okay, you either trafficking humans or you smuggling drugs.
Right.
Like, you don't have any legitimate use case. But on a world when you aspire that the whole world is gonna onboard onto, like everybody's talking about onboarding the next billion users.
Yeah.
So if you're looking on it and you're saying like, okay, when I'm buying milk in the grocery store and I'm paying $1, is it really make sense that the cashier person, which is 16 years old, will see all my net worth and whoever I interacted with and what am I holding and how much do I have from it? And does it really make sense to you? Is that like a good base to onboard a billion users to? I don't think that's the case. I don't think there is something bad with privacy. I think there is a legitimate use case for it.
I'm going to completely agree with you, right? I mean, that is actually my issue with how we've developed blockchain, is that there was no privacy at the start. We were substituting anonymity for privacy. So we said, hey, it doesn't matter that all the transaction history for all time is publicly readable because no one can associate transactions to individuals. Mm-hmm. Now, that obviously turned out not to be true. And so now you have this contention over, well, is anonymity real or not? But you have no privacy in either context. And I think privacy is entirely appropriate for transactions. Like when I use a credit card, which is a little bit different than the cash scenario that you proposed, but I'm checking out at the grocery store. Yeah, the cashier can see what I'm buying in the moment, and the card network processing my card, they can run a fraud check on the transaction and make sure that I'm actually the owner of the credit card. And the issuing bank is probably also like verifying that I actually have funds in my account to pay for whatever I'm buying. It's not that the transaction's anonymous. There's at least 4 people involved: me, the cashier, the merchant network, issuing bank. But everybody else in the store, as you said, doesn't get to see everything I've ever bought over all time with that credit card. They don't get to know my current balance or any of my other financial details. To me, that feels like the right level of privacy. Like, we can prevent crime. We have fraud checks. So when someone steals my credit card number and they're checking out at the grocery store, on average, that gets caught more than it doesn't. And that's good. I think that's the model that we generally want. But we do want to instill some privacy. And I haven't figured out how to bring that on chain effectively. Because the reason the Tornado Cash guys seem to get in trouble, and I'm not an expert, I don't have inside information here, this is my outsider view, is because the North Korean Lazarus group was using Tornado Cash as their primary laundering platform. And it appears, at least I think this is the government's argument, that the developers were profiting from that laundering, meaning that they were earning fees generated off those transactions because they held the token.
I actually think they're also saying that they actually went there to teach them how to use it effectively and stuff, which is like much more extreme.
Right.
But even without that, they would have been gotten in trouble. And the reason that all the other privacy preserving protocols are legitimate and they are not is because when the time comes and you're saying, listen, this wallet over here, use your service to launder this amount of money, right there, here's transaction. Where did the money went?
Yeah.
And here we have the signed court order and we have everything, and here's the evidence that is actually a terror activity. Where did the money went?
Yeah.
And I think, nah, we're decentralized. Honestly, I don't think, probably it's a hot topic right now because that's very similar to what Telegram founder did. Telegram being the main communication platform for ISIS, and then he's coming up on a stage and saying like, ISIS will find a way to communicate anyway. The fight in terrorism does not make hurting the privacy of people right. I hope I won't get roasted in the comments or something, but I actually disagree with that. I think there is a lot of like, you can monitor specific words and you can monitor like specific codes, specific accounts without compromising the privacy of the entire system. Like ZK KYC, how they do it, they basically check in like what you are not, because instead of what you are, and they give in a yes or a no at the end. So I think this would be like really effective, and it's just like looking at the wall and saying, I don't see anything, or closing your eyes and saying, I'm blind.
Maybe we can talk specifically in the context of T-Fi. When I look at the website, t-fi.com, the first decentralized finance platform to offer full privacy, ensuring security and trust while meeting regulatory requirements. So maybe let's break that down a little bit and start with full privacy. What does that mean if I'm a user of your system?
If you're a user of a system, of our system, sometimes you're just getting so emotionally attached to something you're just working non-stop on, and just like, it's like a baby. So, but DeFi allows you to have full privacy because normal platforms allow you to have privacy in specific actions. And we orchestrate a platform where you can easily and seamlessly integrate with all the various parts of the DeFi ecosystem and embed natively inside of it a privacy layer, which you also like seamlessly communicate with. So if you have swap, you have anonymous swap. If you have lending, you have anonymous lending. If you have domains, you have anonymous domains. You have transfer, you have you have multi-send, like pay master pay, or you have account abstraction where you can pay the fees in every token you want. Or you have cross-chain bridges, assets, like all of those. You also have a parallel private version of them. So that basically means where you have privacy everywhere and like full privacy.
Yeah, and so that privacy is provided because you're using like a ZK layer to abstract or further encrypt everything. Help me understand maybe at a one level deeper how that actually works.
So right now we are utilizing a ZK protocol for that. The problem is it's actually very similar. We just onboarded MoonPay for the on-ramp. Very like different, but I get the point. So we just did onboarding with MoonPay. And people ask me like, yeah, but MoonPay is expensive. Why did you work with MoonPay? They take like 4% commission on credit card charges. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. First of all, you need to have the solution. You need to make sure you have the solution. And after you have the solution, now you perfect it. Now you ideal it. You make the improvements needed and everything. Yeah, we work with MoonPay because MoonPay have the biggest SDK. They have the library. We don't need to audit their codes and everything. And now as we finish onboarding them, we started researching different on-ramp platforms. We started with ZK because it's very well developed and used technology in the crypto space and making the audit process much easier, and we can provide privacy from day one. And simultaneously, we have a development team who's working on a solution for privacy, which is, in my opinion, very innovative because it solves two major problems with ZK. So currently you don't really have ZK on Ethereum, and the reason for that is that Ethereum is very expensive. So for example, if you have swaps with ZK, it will cost you like, instead of like say $1, it will cost you like $5-6. Sorry, if you're talking about send, but if you're talking about swaps, which already cost like $5-6-7, using ZK protocol is usually going to cost you around like $30-40, which is very expensive.
That's because of the incremental computation necessary to use a zero knowledge proof versus a
Yeah,
standard transaction. Okay.
I'm not a tech guy to be honest. I'm mostly business, but basically you need to like run all the process till this point on every single transaction you are submitting. With doing that,
Totally makes sense. The implement what works well, so MoonPay and using a ZK proof just to get started because you know it works. People trust it
yes.
out of the box. And then over time, you'll optimize those for lower cost, more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna use actually for the ZK, because MoonPay is easy. You just find another service, you're doing the same, just a bit cheaper. It's not different technology. Just like maybe a bit less greed. But when you're talking about privacy in the blockchain, there are not many successful proven technologies which are more effective than ZK. One really interesting one, really like took pace in the past 6 months, we are working on it pretty early on, called FHE, to fully homomorphic encryption. Basically, it allows you to store less data. It's less, more complicated to say, maybe it's less data that you need to store and submit later for transactions. So that's why our privacy solution will be cheaper than ZK solution. And also it will be still sustainable, even for small wallets or for multiple transactions or high frequency transactions on Ethereum. And moreover than that, because our solution will also be utilizing layer one liquidity. So we're also going to solve, in my opinion, the big problem in the layer two space, which is liquidity.
When we dive into the capabilities of TeFi a little bit, it sounds like at the core there's a DEX. I also see on the website that you're planning to launch a token. I think there's a token launch there. Are you also
And the
planning?
pre-sale.
Yeah, the pre-sale.
It's cost.
Are you also planning to launch your own layer two?
Yeah, so actually the privacy protocol will be a layer two.
I see. What else am I missing that's in the under the TeFi umbrella? Because I think it's a very broad vision. Maybe you could just walk us through each of the pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most innovative parts, think DEX. When you talk about the privacy, when you talk about the fully customizable, where it can be like exactly what you used to, or you don't need to go anywhere else to find information, because right now if you're doing trades or you're doing swaps, everything, you want to check CMC for market cap and description and official sites, and you check DEX tool for security rating and liquidity, and you check trading view for chart analyzing, and you check DeFi Llama for TVL and Etherscan for on-chain holders, and like so many platforms. And so basically the idea is to have one platform when you have everything you need and you don't have to go anywhere else. And also fully customizable to make it like still very easy and very like user friendly. And if you don't want to see all those things and they are like you don't use them, you don't care about how much TVL is because you are a day trader. So you don't need to see it, just make it everything more complicated. And I think also like the gas fee top up, which is things that makes the swap, in my opinion, stand out. The second part, I would say, is the lending protocol from maybe two main reasons. The first reason, I would say, like of course, is the privacy and everything, and I haven't actually saw any private lending protocol. But generally speaking, I think two very cool features we have in the lending protocol, and there are still some finalization to do to it. But first of all is the over-collateralized line of credit, because if you saw in the website the T card, we are going to launch Visa DeFi debit cards, and we are going to allow users to actually put deposits and take over-collateralized line of credit for the debit card. So I think that's a cool feature. And I think one other cool feature is with the T Club. I even if you notice that, but I'm really a big fan of integrating everything seamlessly with everything else. In the T Club, users will be able to earn profit sharing from the platform and by that create an income, basically. And I think what separates the crypto world from the traditional world, or traditional finance, traditional banking maybe, is the loan part. Because if you look at swaps, okay, that's pretty straightforward. That's the same. Maybe with a bit more backend, self-custody, but it's the same. Like I'm swapping here. It doesn't matter. But on the lending side, usually when someone takes a loan, it's because he needs the money. And in crypto, you can only take the loan if you have like twice the money, and then you risk being liquidated. If you want to gamble and you are high risk trader, yeah, that works for you, but that's not what lending is meant for. Like we're an economy based on debt. That's how people know how to live. And when you're talking about, onboarding the next billion users, and like, that's not what they used to. Like, how can they live like that? One step back. So the reason for that is because you don't know what it's going to do next month. Because if you have $1,000 and you want to loan 10,000, but you don't know that if you're going to pay the loan next month, it can just disappear. It's anonymous. The blockchain, it can be like in Peru and you are in, I don't know, Australia. So the reason we can allow not only under collateralized loans, but actually uncollateralized loans, like with no collateral needed at all, is because when you provide income for the user and you know what's going to be his future income, you can estimate approximately. You can take like maybe a percentage of gap in between of what's going to be the income of the user. You can give him a loan based on that. And you can deduct the loan payments from his future income.
So if I hold some of the Tea-Fi token and I'm presumably staking it, you're going to pay me a network reward and I can borrow against that projected future network reward. Is that roughly what you're describing?
That's one part of it, yes,
Okay.
like for the staking. But we're also like the T Club is going to be a karma-based loyalty reward system where you can actually because the staking you earn rewards from the newly minted token. And on the T Club itself, you will earn rewards from the profit sharing of the system.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so some amount of profits that are generated by Tea-Fi overall will be reallocated back to users, and you can forecast that revenue and therefore the individual's rewards. And again, you're going to allow users to borrow against that projected future income.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, you all are pre-launch right now. So in terms of that feature working, I would imagine it requires a pretty substantial user base who are actively trading and utilizing the platform in order to generate all that fee income, which gets redistributed. How do you think about the challenge of launching a new protocol into the market these days? Like, what's the promotion plan to build that user base and not just people showing up once, but kind of the ongoing, enduring approach? What does that look like?
So there are a few elements to that. The first point is making a good platform to make sure that the ones who does come want to go. Then have a big user retainer, retaining the users you already managed to onboard. The second part is not counting on that. That's why the T Club is only planned for the middle of 2025. And so that's currently something that's not going to be from the beginning. So at the beginning, we're only going to aggregate liquidity from different protocols. So even if there is only like one user, you would still have the same seamless experience, high depth liquidity and everything like there is a billion users. That's also very important. And we are also working with multiple KOLs, very big ones from all around the world. Actually, I think the followers base of maybe like top 3 KOLs is over 8 million followers, only for the top 3. We are planning on having a massive KOL campaign. So the idea is like not to count on it.
Yeah.
Get and eventually like on a very wisely timed moment, bring huge exposure to it. And when you bring huge exposure to it, you're going to make sure before that the platform is very good, that the exposure that's going to come and, going to be a certain conversion rate. Like, I don't know, we're going to see this exposure going to be to like 10 million people. Out of them, let's say 10%, like 1 million going to see the platform. So we want to focus on having a good product and retaining the users that actually come. And then from like, if you get 1 million new users are going to try the platform, and out of them 800,000 will stay. I think from going from 800,000 to 100 million is significantly easier than going from 0 to 800,000.
Yeah, that's exciting. So maybe give us the roadmap. People are listening, they're excited about Tea-Fi, they want to check it out. Today it looks like you're still in the kind of beta stage. What's the timeline from now as we're recording in the end of August? What should we expect over the remainder of the year?
What we are going to, I can expect later this year, it's funny because sometimes like you're walking under the radar for so much time and then like one moment, so many things are happening. So we definitely have like exciting 6, maybe 5 months ahead of us. We have the testnet coming out, we have the TGE, we have the initial listings, and of course, how could we not? We have like airdrop distribution and the mainnet launch, the V1, which is going to include multi-chain support, cross-chain capabilities, the swap, the gas fee top-up, the synthetic assets, and several more stuff, including the debit cards, which is going to launch actually maybe even before the end of this Q. Yeah, definitely exciting 5 months ahead.
It's going to be a busy finish to the year for you.
Yeah.
That's great. So
I already said goodbye to my mom.
Hopefully you can still make it over for dinner, Friday night with your mom. But Matan, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed getting to learn about the platform, what you all are building. I'm excited to see it develop over the course of the year and can't wait to try it out once it goes live on mainnet. That'll be great.
Excited to have you as a customer.
Yeah, we'll have to chat again once you guys get live. Thanks so much for joining us on Public Key today.
Thank you.
Hey listeners, I want to take the time to thank the people that regularly listen to this podcast and have helped us grow to over 100,000 downloads. You've been not only listening to episodes, but have shared on social media, forwarded it to your team and peers in the industry, and that's led us to be the most listened to podcast on crypto compliance, policy, tech, and everything in between. Your continued support is much appreciated, and it doesn't go unnoticed. We truly couldn't do this without our loyal audience. In breaking news, due to the mounting financial pressures of Western sanctions, Russia enacted significant legislation legalizing cryptocurrency mining and permitting the use of crypto for international payments. The bills were signed into law on August 8th by President Vladimir Putin, and crypto payment trials are slated to start this month, according to a Bloomberg report. This represents a significant departure from the government's previous stance in the country, where a complete ban on crypto was implemented as recently as 2022. Head to the show notes to read the full blog on this topic, and if you're interested to hear more about Russia and their direct nexus with various areas of crypto crime, stay tuned for next week's episode where I talk with two Chainalysis experts about sanctions on Russia, their increased propaganda on war activity in Ukraine, and their connected attempts to meddle in the USA presidential election.